Hi guys, my name is Hari and this is Project Directory, where we'll be focusing on technical videos related to projects that I and the OSS community have built. Recently, Windows has been on a downward spiral because of Microsoft's ignorance and misplaced trust on the push towards AI. For the average person, they probably don't realize how misplaced our trust is on Windows because that's all we've ever known. But all Microsoft has been doing for the past few months is quietly turning our operating system into something else. We need to have a quick talk about this, because this video is not just about my transition to Linux. Microsoft used to be a company that cared about its consumers. It used to be a company that its consumers respected. But hearing about its recent decisions these few months, it just feels like the company has completely given up on giving people what they desire and replaced it with this lifeless corporate greed, this constant focus on revenue generation more than being people-centric. With Windows especially, Microsoft has been focusing on the wrong things. Every single core feature of Windows has been experiencing problems, and Microsoft themselves have acknowledged this. Even recent quality of life updates carry with them unknown bugs affecting things like the start menu, taskbar, file explorer and the system settings. Worst part is that Windows isn't free. Sure, it might look like it's free, but Microsoft takes its cut for Windows for every pre-built PCs and laptops. For people who want to build their own PCs, the basic home version of Windows costs around $139. And yet it comes riddled with advertisements and pre-installed bloatware like Candy Crush and forced Microsoft apps that you can't even uninstall on your own. Many people don't even realize that bloat like this slows their PC down and affects its performance, so they keep it installed. And then we have the agentic OS direction that Microsoft has chosen for Windows. The newest feature of Windows lets AI make decisions on users' behalf. Because what even is the point of using our computer if we don't let Microsoft know what we're doing with it, right? This, among the growing privacy concerns and this forced AI integration, is what pushed me to take a decision. So here's what I did. I switched to Linux. This change has been a long time coming. The word about Linux that I used to hear when I was in college doing my bachelor's is that Linux is an operating system that was specifically used in servers and not much in consumer computers, unless you are a hacker or a network engineer. Again, this assumption was based around the fact that none of my college mates or even professors really used any form of Linux. It was always either Windows or macOS, so we never really got a chance to think of Linux as a potential option to even consider. This was again backed by the fact that all of our workflow in college revolved around Microsoft tools, especially Office. Now that I'm free from those barriers and open to not limiting myself to certain tools, I thought now would be the best time to switch to Linux, and that's what I did. Now what is Omar-kee? Omar-kee is a custom setup of this distro called Arch Linux and the Hyperland tiling manager created by David Heinemeier Hansen, or DHH. This amazing figure in computer science, most famously known for creating the Ruby on Rails framework. Usually when people recommend Linux for other people, it's one among these. This is to help people to easily transition to Linux from Windows so that they feel right at home. Distributions like Ubuntu and Fedora mimic the UI and experience of Windows to feed this feeling of familiarity within the users coming from Windows. But nah, the UI of Windows looked boring anyway. I wanted something that looked and felt fresh and brand new. So the popular choice in that regard was to try Arch Linux, the holy grail of customizability among the Arch distros. But Arch is also a very lightweight and very do-it-yourself kind of distro. This means that we are responsible ourselves for installing simple things like a graphical user interface, a network driver, and drivers for your own specific graphics card, and sometimes changing things might break something else. That level of control comes at this cost. But I didn't want to compromise on that. A couple of months ago, I heard of this new distro made by apparently the creator of Ruby on Rails. It was called Omar-kee, and it was a pre-built distro based on Arch. I was just curiously watching a lot of videos on it, and I decided that this would be the way to go. There are a few things that Omar-kee has going for it. First being it's built on Arch, so every new Arch version I get automatic updates. The way I install stuff is the simplest I've seen in any operating system. I just press super plus alt plus space to open the Omar-kee menu, go to install, and it gives me this whole menu on what exactly I want to install. If I had to install Firefox for example, I would just open packages, and in this terminal UI I just type Firefox and press enter. That's it. It also doesn't use a regular desktop environment like GNOME in Ubuntu and Fedora. Instead, it uses Hyperland, which is a tiling window manager. For any window I open, it lets me do stuff like this. So yes, it is a very developer-focused distro. It is also very opinionated, having keybinds for social media, pre-installed Discord, ChatGPT, and OBS, but all of these are highly customizable. In fact, the whole operating system, down to how it looks and feels, is all customizable, and that's the best part. It's also got themes. Of course, you can also create your own theme, and Omar-kee comes with its own theme creation engine, Ether, to do it. The philosophy behind this distro is that it is a complete system that ships with everything a software dev needs to be productive immediately, from NeoVim to Spotify, Chromium to LibreOffice. Everything is themed and integrated out of the box. For developers, most of the dev tools we already use like Git, Docker, NeoVim, and terminals are already pre-installed. Installing any dev tool or any software for that matter is as easy as opening the Omar-kee menu, pressing install, and choosing what kind of software you need to install. For everyday application software, you can expect to find it either in the package installer or in the AUR, which is the Arch user repository. Omar-kee also lets you create your own web apps to open sites like YouTube and Gemini from your app launcher. It is also a very keyboard-oriented distro similar to the workflow of Raycast, and it offers a much better multitasking experience because of an actual tiling window manager with Hyperland. I was surprised to see that even gaming, arguably one of the most notoriously difficult part about switching to another operating system, just works. Valve has helped the Linux community in making strides in gaming compatibility between Windows and Linux, with its compatibility layer Proton built in by default in Steam on Linux. Valve's handheld console, the Steam Deck, also works with Arch Linux as its operating system. Worst case scenario, Omar-kee also offers an easy way to run Windows through a Docker virtual machine, and the option to do that is again built into the Omar-chee menu itself. It also doesn't compromise on security and privacy. Full disk encryption is mandatory in Omar-kee when you set it up. That's the reason you really can't install it on a partition of an existing drive. You have to install it in its own drive. The firewall is enabled by default. No more ads, no more shady background processes that clog up your task manager, no AI watching you. You are in control of your system completely. Despite Arch Linux's reputation for being notoriously difficult to install, Omar-kee's installation experience is comparable to any simple consumer distro like Ubuntu and Debian. First, we download the ISO from the official Omar-kee website, omarchee.org. Burn the ISO into any pendrive you have lying around using a tool like Balena Etcher or Rufus. I used Rufus. Boot into the pendrive in your PC and follow the installation script of Omar-kee. It is very minimal in the initial setup, asking very few questions, and that's about it. Your part in the installation would be done in 30 seconds max, and within 10 to 20 minutes, your fresh installation of Omar-kee would be complete, with everything set up and ready to go. Omar-kee, like I mentioned before, is a keyboard-focused distro, and most of its keyboard shortcuts revolve around the super key, which is our command center. That is nothing but the Windows key on our keyboard. The main shortcuts include super plus space to open the app launcher, super plus alt plus space to open the Omar-kee menu, super 1, 2, 3 and so on to navigate through workspaces. The unified theme system is accessible using the super plus control plus shift plus space. Obviously, you can't memorize all the keybinds in one go, so Omar-kee conveniently includes a keybind menu which you can access using super plus K. It shows a searchable menu for all the keybinds. After spending almost 15 years on Windows, the decision to switch to another operating system didn't just happen without sacrifices. For every single native software that I needed to use, I had to find an alternative built for Linux that again involved a learning curve, like my video editor for example. I used to use Premiere Pro for that. The past few months, however, I've been trying out Kdenlive, and it has been fun. In fact, all of the videos on this channel have been edited on Kdenlive. The hardest software that I thought I had to replace was my DAW, my music making and editing software. I used to use FL Studio and then I switched to Ableton, both of which are only available on Windows and macOS. The solution to that turned out to be simple again, just run them on a virtual machine running Windows. Lastly, gaming, which again turned out alright because I mostly play just single player games anyway, so Steam was more than sufficient. With all of these though, there were still things that people would consider to be drawbacks. A new operating system is a commitment, especially with something like Omar-kee and Arch Linux. The learning curve for the keyboard first workflow is real. The tiling window manager is another thing that people might find to take some adjustment. Omar-kee works on the assumption that its users are comfortable with the keyboard-driven interfaces and command line tools. Despite all this, the Omar-kee and Arch community is very helpful and active. Omar-chee itself is regularly maintained and improved by David, and it's free and open source. At this point, we can all agree that Windows is only getting worse. The ads are not going away anytime soon, the AI integration is accelerating, and core features keep breaking. As developers, we deserve better. Omar-kee gives you a beautiful, fast, privacy-respecting system that's actually designed for developers, not advertisers. If you are interested in switching from Windows, check out omarkee.org. To learn how to use Omar-kee, check out learn.omacom.io for a detailed guide on how to use Omar-kee. To go for a more traditional transition, check out ubuntu.com and fedoraproject.org. All of these links are in the description. Thank you for watching and stay curious.